I'm going to be mounting a Zroadz hood hinge light mount kit onto a 2017 F350, and I'm going to be mounting two Rigid Industries Dually XLs with the diffused lens. Step one is going to be to remove the negative battery terminal on both batteries. This requires a 10mm socket. Step two, you're going to want to take some masking tape, and then you're going to want to just tape over the hood hinge bracket here as well as on the hood, because when you loosen these bolts here, the hood is going to shift a little bit. So when you tighten the bolts after you put the mounting plate on, you're going to want to use this masking tape so that you can realign the hinge with the hood, and do that on both sides. So now step three is to take a 13mm socket, and you're going to want to loosen this nut here and this nut here on the hood hinge. I just do it one side at a time. You're not going to completely remove the nut. You're just going to want to loosen it so that you can slide the bracket in between the nut and the hinge. So on the driver's side hinge, you have the hood light, and what Ford has done is they actually taped it and tied it to a little plastic insert so that it's hooked into the hood. So what you're going to need to do is cut the tape and detach it from the little insert here so that you can have space to slide the hinge in here. And you're going to want to slide the hinge in between the bottom of this and this washer here. You don't want to put the bracket in between the hood and the top of this bracket. You don't want to do that. So here's that little clip that the wire right here was taped onto. So what you want to do is take a pry tool like this, so that you can slip it under the bolt, under the clip, and then it'll just pry right out. And there's actually a hole on the bracket right here so that you can reinstall this clip, and then you can tape the wire back to it. So here's a quick shot of the wire. It's taped back to the bracket, or the little plastic insert here, and I put it in the hole that is in the bracket. I tightened down the bolts, and I made sure that the tape lined up. And so now that's driver's side bracket installed, and now you move on to the passenger side. And now the passenger side bracket is installed. It's much easier because there's no wire that gets in your way over here. So just unscrew these, loosen them up enough, slide the bracket in between, and then tighten them back down. So something that I noticed is that if you use a Rigid Industries bolt to bolt the Dually XL down onto the hinge, the hole is actually not big enough for that bolt. So you can either get a smaller bolt and washers and nuts, or you can do what I did because it's really late, and actually just drill or Dremel out the hole and make it slightly bigger. I would recommend doing this before you attach the hinge onto the truck. I unfortunately did not figure this out until I had put the hinges on already. So this is the passenger side hinge, and I took this off, and it took me about 30 minutes to actually make this hole bigger because I didn't really have the proper bits or anything. But the screw now fits in perfectly, so I'm going to install the passenger light, and then I will go ahead and take off the hinge for the driver's side and enlarge that hole as well. Alright, so now I've mounted the lights, just a couple of washers and a bolt. It may actually be easier to mount the lights onto the bracket first, and then slide the bracket from the cab side here, and then going underneath the hood that way, instead of mounting it from underneath the hood and then up to the cab side. So it's probably easier to mount the lights onto the bracket first and then mount the bracket onto the hood. So if you order lights from Rigid Industries, such as I did, I ordered the pair of the Dually XLs. It comes with a wire harness. On the wire harness, there's going to be a relay, and then there's going to be an inline fuse, which leads to the positive and negative power cables. And then there's going to be two wires that are kind of long and with Deutsch connectors on the end, and each wire goes to one light. So because this wire harness was intended for a truck that does not come with upfitter switches, that it has all this extra stuff on it. But because the Super Duties already come with upfitter switches, relays, and fuses, you can actually cut most of this wiring out. So what you want to do is on both of the Deutsch connectors, you want to take it and follow it all the way up until you get to the relay. And I've actually already cut it, but you go ahead and you want to snip it right at the relay, the red and the black wire, so that all you're left with is a really long wire with the Deutsch connector on the end. And you want to go ahead and do that for the other one, so you have two of these. And here's the other one. So you can now actually take this other half of the wire harness and you can save it, because it does come with the relay and there's a 40 amp fuse in there. You can save this, or you can just toss it, and because we won't need that. So the tools that you're going to need for this next step are going to be, I happen to get weatherproof ring terminals, 12 to 10 gauge, and with a 3/8 inch ring. I got the weatherproof one because I'm going to use a butane lighter and just kind of melt the shrink wrap on the end. I don't think you necessarily have to get a weatherproof one, but that's up to you. And the next thing is going to be the wire crimper. You can use it to cut the wire off of the relay, as I did, and also to crimp down the ring terminals. And then just a torch to go ahead and shrink the shrink wrap down. Now at the end of each wire, you're going to have a black and red wire. So I'm going to cut this down a little bit, strip that off, and then I'm going to attach the ring terminals. I stripped both wires, and now this next step, you're actually going to just take the black wire and put a ring terminal on that. The red wire we're going to do later. We're going to hook it up to the upfitter switch, and for that we are going to use a crimp and shrink butt splice for 12 to 10 gauge. So now with this next step, before I put on the butt splice connector, I want to go ahead and take the other harness for the other light, and I want to take and strip the red cable as well, because what's going to happen is I am going to take both of these, and then I'm going to slip both of these ends into a butt splice connector, so that when I connect the other end to the upfitter switch wire, it'll turn both lights on. So here's the end result. I twisted the two red cables together before I inserted it into the butt splice connector, and then I put a ring terminal on each of the black wires, and now I'm going to wire it up to the upfitter switch. If you go online, there is a bulletin which tells you all about the upfitter switches for the 2017 Super Duty. It's Q252. The website is fleet.ford.com/truckbbas. And what it'll tell you is what color wires are hooked up to which upfitter switches. It'll tell you the fuse numbers and the amp rating for each of those upfitter switches. So for these two lights, I'm going to hook it up to auxiliary 2, and that's going to be the violet and orange wire. On the driver's side, closest to the cab, there is going to be a fuse box right here, which houses the relays and the fuses for the upfitter switches. But then just below that, there is going to be this wire harness right here. It has the upfitter switch wires, which are blunt cut and then taped on the ends. And then this harness is actually going to be shrink wrapped to another wire harness, so it's going to feel like it's kind of hard to pull off. But once you do, just reach down in there and you'll pull out the bundle of wires just like this. And then you just find the one that you need. So for the one that I need is the violet and orange. This is auxiliary number 2. So now that I've stripped off the purple and orange wire, what I'm going to do is mount the grounds, and there's already a ground right here. So I'm just going to take an 8mm socket, unscrew this right here, put the two grounds on there and screw it back in, and then I am going to take the red wire and hook it up to the upfitter switch. So now I have screwed the two ground wires into the ground on the chassis here, and now it's time to move on to the purple and orange wire. I will take this butt splice piece and going to insert it, crimp it down, and then I'm going to heat up the shrink wrap on it. Well, so now that the wiring is all done, I have this big bundle of extra wire that I had to zip tie because this is the driver's side, and if you don't want this, you can cut the wire to size before you crimp all the ends with the connectors and put it in the truck. But for now, this is what I've done. I'm just going to kind of shove it down in here, and what you do is you take the Deutsch connector end and you can actually slide it up into this hole right here. And then you can slide it underneath this foam pad here. After you slide it underneath the foam pad, you can now put it through this little hole right here. And bring it up right around in here, and then you can plug it into the back of your light. I just got to extend it a little bit, and then after that, what I'm doing with this bundle of wire is just gonna shove it right down in there. Now the last step is to take the other cable, and you're gonna have to route it all the way across the engine and plug it into the other light. So my idea here is to actually pop off this plastic cover here on both sides, and I'm going to take the wire and just kind of shove it in either in this existing hole or come around on the side here and plug it, slide it in through this hole right here, and then I'm just going to route it underneath this plastic cover all the way to the other side. And then I'm going to have it come out of this little channel right here with this flap, and just have this wire run up just like on the other side, and then plug it into the light. It does help to get these little tabs off if you use a pry tool, because they are kind of sharp and it's not easy. So just take the pry tool and pop off the little piece. So on the other side now, I had the wire come out through this other little flap here, just like on the other side, and there's just a slight little bit of excess wire, So I'm just going to zip tie that together and then slide it underneath this foam piece right here so that it doesn't get crushed by the hinge. And then I'm going to reattach the battery and going to close the hood and adjust the lights so that they're pointing in the right direction. Alright, the lights are installed to auxiliary switch number 2, and this is what they look like. This is the Dually XL Spectre diffused. This is just the normal headlights and not the fog lights is on. And here it is again. I have them angled a little bit outwards just because I wanted these so that I could see on the sides of the truck a little bit, not necessarily just in front of me. So that's why I have them angled out just a little bit. And I'll turn off the other lights. And there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video.